This is the all-new Pinarello F10 X-Light as used by Chris Froome. At the 2016 Tour de France, we saw for the first time Chris Froome using the F8 X-Light. At the start of the year in January, we saw Wout Poels' F10, which was the first time we'd seen that model, and this basically is an amalgamation of the two. So this frame in a size 53 centimetres weighs in at 760 grams, whilst the fork at the front there comes in at 340 grams. Put the two together and this comes in at 100 grams lighter than the standard F10 model. And they've achieved that lighter weight through a new carbon layup and a much slower moulding process. And in fact, they've got their very own mould for this particular model back at Pinarello's factory. Pinarello are quite keen to stress that every other part of the design, apart from the weight, is exactly the same on the X-Light model as it is on the standard F10 model. So that goes from the asymmetric design to the concave down tube, which keeps the bottle cage here much closer to that and much more hidden from the wind. And actually later we will throw to Wout Poels' video where I'll give much more details on the exact part of the frame. Now in terms of the finishing kit, this currently is set up for Chris when he is doing the flatter stages. So you can see the much deeper section wheels. So this will come in slightly over the UCI's weight limit of 6.8 kilograms. When it comes to the hillier and the mountain stages, he will be swapping this out for section C40s. And at that point it will weigh in at roughly 6.85 to 6.87 kilograms, including the transponder. Now that is deliberate because sometimes the UCI scales aren't completely accurate from what we understand from a few of the team mechanics around in the World Tour. So they always like to give themselves a little bit of a buffer so they are not penalised by the race jury. Up at the top here, Chris is as ever running the Physique and Tyres carbon rail saddle, and he's also got the one-piece bar and stem there. That is the Pro Stealth Evo, which does look very stealth indeed. And what I particularly like is the way that the mechanics have finished the bar tape here. They haven't used tape on the tops, instead they've used glue to make sure that the ribbon doesn't come undone. And they've also got that lightweight modified Di2 climbers buttons, which Froome always likes to use. They've taken all of the plastic away to keep things as light as they possibly can. You would have seen that in our lightweight video from the Tour de France this year. The tyres are supplied as ever by Continental. These are the standard 25mm Pro Limited tyres, tubulars of course. The chain rings always make Chris Froome stand out from the crowd. They are these incredible asymmetric chain rings, which actually, when you think about it, having been used by Brad Wiggins at the 2012 Tour de France, this style of chain rings have won 5 out of the last 6 of the Tours de France. Quite incredible actually that you don't see more riders using these from that point of view. Down here you can see an extra part of the chain catcher, and that is because apparently there's a slightly more of a tendency for the chain to unship on these asymmetric rings versus your standard round ones. Now he is running a size 175mm cranks, and we all know that Chris Froome likes to spin up the climb. So back here, it's quite a wide-ranging cassette, 11 all the way up to 30, even on these deep section wheels, which are mainly for the flatter stages. Final couple of things before we get onto the measurements. Power meter is supplied by their partner at Team Sky, which is Stages. All the Team Sky riders now using the dual-sided power meter for a bit of extra accuracy. And the bottle cages here are supplied by Elite. Now I've been doing some measurements, as I said, and his saddle height to roughly where he sits from the centre of the bottom bracket is 79.5 centimetres, and his reach from the tip of the saddle to roughly the centre of these stealth bars is 55 centimetres. And incidentally, that's a 12 centimetre stem, and he's running 400mm bars measured from centre to centre. Incidentally, before we finish, you will have noticed that he is running 54 by 42 tooth chain rings, which sounds very big for a standard road bike, but from what I understand, I've never used these particular chain rings, they don't quite work in the same way as your standard 53 by 39, so it might not necessarily feel any bigger than normal. Right, if you haven't subscribed to GCN yet, you can do so right now by clicking on the globe. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up just down below. And if you want some more details on the standard F10, which was released in January, as I said, we took a look at Wout Poels' bike in the training camp in January, and you can find that by clicking just up there. Or if you would like to see Team Sky's new race hub, which is very impressive indeed, that is in the bottom corner just down there.